To make a puppet it's sort of bringing something to life. There is a tradition that the eyes are the most important part and that you should put them in last. So when you've got everything else right, you put the eyes in. Then the puppet has a soul. It does feel like that. My name's Tina Matthews and I made these guys.
Don't mess with the barrels, the barrels. They're gonna get you, that's the barrels.
The Ferals was a children's TV show and it was about 4 feral characters who lived in a shed. I made all the puppets for it.
Yeah. Take that. You're dead, train lover. Yeah!
There was a lot of hitting and violence which possibly wouldn't be allowed in children's television now, but it was brilliant.
Why are you always fighting?
Oh, he's a rat. Yeah, she's a cat. It's obvious.
I think they spoke what was unspeakable quite often. That was their sort of reason for being, was to break rules, really. I actually loved them right from the beginning. As a teenager, I saw a marionette operator coming out onto stage with a little marionette that he was operating. And it was such a poignant, beautiful performance. The marionette looks up and realises he's being operated by someone and cuts his own strings. So I think that was actually when I really thought puppetry and theatre was a good thing for me. In the 1980s, Jim Henson, who started the Henson organisation and the Muppets and did all the puppets for Sesame Street, he came to Australia. He needed some puppet makers on Labyrinth.
In 3, 2, 1, action!
Jump, magic, jump, magic, jump, jump, magic, jump. Magic, jump on me. Slap that baby.
The characters I worked on mainly were the goblins, who were really quite menacing, but all very, very different. And I felt very lucky, and I also felt I had so much to learn, and that this would be a great place to be learning.
Cut it. Good. Good.
Like this was just, this was a throwing, we'd chosen this fur, I think, and this was the original Rattus character. The brief for the Ferals was to stick to the sort of punk characters that had been drawn. You wanted them to have attitude already before someone even put a hand in to operate them. The designer was a friend and he was more extreme in his design than I ever was. His pictures of a crazed rabbit and a rat that's got a pink ponytail and a little leather jacket, it sort of kicked it up to a level of craziness. I used a lot of the techniques that I'd learnt working on Labyrinth. We didn't want them to look cute, you know, we didn't want them to look cuddly, and that was quite hard when they were covered in fur. The puppeteers had sort of 2 characters. They had themselves and they had their puppet. So there was a real camaraderie. There were a lot of takes that we couldn't use through people laughing. There were some fabulous ones. There was one where someone was stuck on an ant's nest and, you know, they just could not get the take.
Why are we covered in honey?
Because you're all in a sticky situation.
Put a sock in it, Ferals!
Lots of kind of in-jokes and, yeah, rude jokes.
Oh, I just broke your whisker. You really are quite fragile, aren't you, you old bag?
There's a possibility with puppets that kids seem to relate to. There's a wildness in them. They explore and they're curious, they'll ask questions and they don't feel silly. Puppets will ask a question that's really obvious and they don't feel silly doing it. I do teach a bit and I have for a long time, and it always amazes me how soon the sort of taped together paper bags and bits of tape can actually assume a character and that the kids become quite attached to what they've made. It has a hold on them. I'm getting older, they're getting younger, the students, so it won't be long before none of them have heard of the Ferrells, or Labyrinth probably. I think the Ferrells were like nothing else that was on TV at the time. They were really pushing boundaries. I think the audience really liked that. Rattus, Moddy, Mixie and Darren, they sort of live on in me, really. I sort of imagine they're still having a life somewhere, I guess.